on his own time while holding a full-time position with the federal government. In 1977, Mr. Waldman led the way in enabling the chapter to purchase its first sanctuary, Farm Creek, which would eventually grow to include approximately 750 acres. Marshes that the Smithsonian Institute determined were a top priority for preservation of the bay. In 1984, a 400-acre working farm on the eastern shore was donated to the Chesapeake Audubon Society. From the start, Mr. Waldman envisioned the property, Pickering Creek, as a place to teach about the unique environment and ecosystems of the Chesapeake Bay. The center provides educational programs to thousands of students and adults annually from 8 Maryland counties and the District of Columbia. Mr. Waldman was an indefatigable inspiration to all who knew and worked with him while founding and directing the Chesapeake Audubon Society. He is the recipient of the William Dutcher Award in recognition of his significant contributions to the environment. Due to his dedication, thousands of children and adults have participated in environmental educational opportunities, and these opportunities will continue far into the future. Mr. Rodger Waldman.
Can you hear me without the microphone?
Yes.
I used to always get caught in school for talking, so I figured sometime it would come in handy, and this is probably one of those moments. I want to thank Stacy and thanks everyone for attending. Unlike most of the Wall honorees, my recognition is not one of individual achievement. Instead, it was a group effort, and some of those individuals include other Glen Burnie High grads. Joel and Gary Powell, class of 1966, back there. Scott Waldman, class of 1970, also back there. And my late father, Carl Waldman, class of 1939, who collected, folded, and addressed more newsletters than one can imagine. And my fellow 1961 classmate, Booth Powell, who I became reacquainted with when he served as Chesapeake Audubon treasurer. Also thank the Glen Burnie High Wall of Honor Committee for recognizing, through this award, the vital role the environment and conservation play in allowing us to continue to exist as part of that so very thin veil of life that surrounds our planet Earth. The reason I mention this is that environmentalism and conservation have been demonized to the point where they have become marginalized in today's society. One only has to look at the current elections to witness indifference due to ignorance or silence brought about by fear of ridicule. Yet without the oxygen plants produce for us to breathe, without insects pollinating our food crops, without bacteria decomposing our waste, without forests cleansed water to drink, without medicine obtained from plants, fungi, bacteria, and animals to prevent and cure illnesses, and so forth, we could not exist. My awareness of this began just a little over a stone's throw from here, in a field at the end of Maryland Avenue. I don't know where you know where that is, but right in Glen Gardens. Where I grew up, there was a field at the end of the street. It no longer exists. It is now occupied by a furniture store, McDonald's, and other stores that come and go. I'm sure Barbara Moeller remembers that field, because I know she played down there as well. This is where we built forts, played baseball, and let our imagination, sometimes fueled by a movie at the New Glen Theater, run wild. There also was a time when the yellow perch ran so packed together in Severn Run, and to a lesser extent in Murley Creek, that even if you were not a fisherman, you still went to marvel at this life form in the process of recreating itself. It was a time when submerged aquatic vegetation, or as we call it, seagrass, was so plentiful that my cousins, Billy and Bobby Nevin, and I threw it at each other, went on family trips to one of the many Anne Arundel beaches, Pasadena, sort of often with the Kurtz's, Magna Vista, Cottage Grove. At that time, I did not realize the ecological significance of all this. What I was doing was shaping the foundation for my later realization that we were part of the natural world and not separate from it. Unlike those born after those losses and who therefore have no recollection of this, I do know that what has been lost, and it saddens me greatly. Knowing this to see firsthand how the natural world has been destroyed, and you need to look no further than the eastern forest to witness this, the world no longer makes sense to me. Instead, though the challenges are many, climate change and biodiversity loss to name only two, I can only hope today's generation becomes even more engaged, and if it does, is more successful than mine in protecting the natural world. This is my appeal to all the young people here. Become ecologically smart, and if time allows, get involved and make a difference. We're only here for such a short time, yet we cause such a huge impact. Life is so beautiful. Go out and enjoy it and work to protect it, as our well-being is so dependent upon our native flora and fauna. I'll end with a quote from a recent New York Times article explaining just one, and I emphasize one, consequence of our ignorance. Quote, if we fail to understand and take care of the natural world, it It can cause a breakdown of ecosystems and come back to haunt us in ways we know little about. A critical example is a developing model of infectious disease that shows that most epidemics, AIDS, Ebola, West Nile, SARS, Lyme disease, and hundreds more that have occurred over the last several decades don't just happen. They are the result of things people do to nature. Disease, it turns out, is largely an environmental issue, and that's the end of the quote. Thanks for your time. This award, Barbara, class of 61,